Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for our afternoon streaming show. I'm Robinson Miles. Now, of course, the first thing you're going to notice is that sadly, it is just me today. I'm going to be the one manning the desk today. Jamie French is taking some much deserved time off, and so I am sad to say, but you are stuck with just me. So we have several things happening around the tri-state today. Have patience with me. I'm the Mr. Octopus right here trying to keep all the plates spinning at once. But we have a lot of things going on right now. Of course, we're still dealing with the impacts of our severe weather, which hit all the way across the tri-state. Of course, those lingering impacts, along with those really cold temperatures, are still giving us a lot to focus on here. So first of all, road crews across the tri-state are still hard at work this afternoon trying to clear roads. Now, many of our major roads are in much better shape. They're now turning their attention to many of those side streets and county roads. Those are maybe a little bit less traffic, but of course still need that attention. Now, many people who live in neighborhoods say they've been stuck at home for days because of this. Now, a little bit later today, you're going to be able to hear from one person who got a little bit help from her neighbors today. Our Leslie Chapman is working on that story. So just a little bit later today, you'll get to hear about that one. Now, elsewhere, of course, the world just keeps on turning. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Of course, we have to deal with all of this weather at the same time, just making things a lot more complicated. So an investigation is underway into what sparked a mobile home fire in Henderson County. Now, it broke out around 10:30 at a home on Freetown Road. Now, we have some pictures here sent to us from our crew on the scene. Now, firefighters say not only did they have a hard time making it to the scene because of the snow, the bitter cold temperatures also caused some additional problems for them. See, we have one more picture there. Now, they do say that thankfully no one was hurt. So, of course, we'll learn a little bit more about that one a little bit later going into tonight. Now, for our final headline tonight, this is our cold temperatures turned, of course, a little bit scary for an Evansville family when they couldn't get their son inside after his surgery. Now, 16-year-old Caden Brown, who has Down syndrome, had just returned home from a total spinal fusion surgery when he sat down on the sidewalk just steps from his house. Now, he refused to get up because of the pain that he was in. Now, that's when an EPD officer came to the rescue. Now, hear from all those involved tonight on 14 News. Our Emma Beck is the one who's taking a look at that story, and so she's going to have more on that for us just a little bit later tonight. So be sure to join us once again, 14 News at 4, 5, and 6, then later this evening at 10. Again, sadly, it will just be me. But on the other side, I know that you're just putting up with me because you want to hear from the main event. We have Arden Gregory here in just a moment giving us an update on our outlook for the rest of this very, very cold week. So be sure to stick around.
Stay informed on your local news and weather throughout the day by watching the 14 First Alert streaming shows. At 8:30 a.m., get your First Alert forecast to plan the day ahead and catch up on the news that happened overnight with the 14 News Sunrise team. In the afternoon, get the latest headlines, forecasts, and a preview of the stories we're working on with the 14 First Alert streaming show at 2:30. And get an in-depth look at the 14 First Alert forecast so you're ready for the next big thing with the 14 First Alert weather show at 9 p.m. Watch the 14 First Alert streaming show that fits your schedule and works best for you. Streaming on your phone by downloading the 14 News app and the 14 First Alert weather app. On your smart TV by using the 14 News streaming app. And stream anytime on Facebook, YouTube, or on 14news.com. Stay connected and stay informed by watching the 14 First Alert streaming shows on your favorite streaming devices. Stay informed on your local news and weather throughout the day by watching the...
Okay, there we go. Make sure I've got my mic turned on today. I made that mistake yesterday. Okay, we're just an uphill battle with our technology today, but we're on and we're working now. So let's talk about this alert. We've got a lot going on right now. Let me make sure I've got this pulled up here so that I can see Facebook comments if we get any. Yesterday, that's how I knew I didn't have my mic on, so you know, those come in handy. All right, thank you already for tuning in. Tammy from Madisonville, Janet and Suzanne, good evening, complaining of the cold. And yes, it is cold and it's going to stay cold. We're still on alert through the rest of this week for dangerously cold temperatures and hazardous travel as well. We have had a lot of snow over the past few days. This weekend, the official total in Evansville was 12.5 inches, which does make this the 5th snowiest January on record with just one snowstorm. It's not like we had a real snowy January as a whole. Most of the month was actually pretty quiet. We had several days in the 60s, and then boom, we get this one big snowstorm over the weekend. And that put down 12.5 inches of snow and made this the 5th snowiest January. I will say, when Jeff posted this, a lot of people were commenting, well, what about 2004? What about... That was in December. So while that was a huge snowstorm, that was back in December, and so that of 2004, so it doesn't rank in the snowiest Januaries. We were specifically looking at January there. While Evansville got 12.5 inches, there was less down to the south, especially as you got into parts of western Kentucky, more like 4 to 6 inches there because some sleet and freezing rain kind of cut into those snow totals. But then as you head farther north, some parts of Indiana, we had reports of as much as a foot to even 14 inches of snow, and you guys have been having some fun with this. These are just a couple of the viewer photos that we've had submitted. I wanted to give these a shout out. Jake and Naya Boland in Winslow built an igloo. I'm not totally sure what they're using for the base here. It seems like they had something already and then they packed snow on top of it. But yes, they do have a igloo there that they have built in Winslow, so that's fun. This picture was sent to us by Ashley Fella in Troy, showing this cute little fella here next to his small snowman. I love the addition of the mustache on the snowman there. Very cute. Glad he was able to get out and have fun despite the very cold temperatures. And then this picture, Harper Grace in Dunmore, Kentucky. I don't know how clearly you can see it there, but she is holding an icicle that goes from the top of her head basically all the way down to the ground. They were saying this measured at about 4 feet. They had a 4-foot long icicle that they snapped off there. And then this picture was sent to us by Colton Sellers over at Vincennes University. A bunch of college guys there all got together and built a giant minion out of snow. And so some folks out there having fun with the snow. It is very cold, as we mentioned. This is a live look now at the Evansville riverfront. The snow plows, there goes a snow plow right there on the far right side of the screen. They have been doing some serious work on downtown Evansville today. Riverside Drive was this morning a whole lot better than it was yesterday, and that right there looks a lot better than it did when I came through this morning. So they're really working to clear those main roads, but this is what I want to draw your attention to. Do you see that there on the river? That's ice. We actually have ice forming along the Ohio River. You don't see that very often. This is not going to be a scenario where it's going to freeze all the way across and people are going to be able to walk to Kentucky. So don't get your hopes up for that. Nobody's walking over the Ohio River this week. But with several more days of below freezing temperatures ahead of us, we'll probably see a little bit more of this ice developing along the river banks there. Certainly an interesting scenario. And then this is a look at, this is from our camera at Deaconess Gateway Hospital, looking back over the intersection of I-69 and the Lloyd. Again, seeing a lot more of that clear black pavement showing up there now. The ramps this morning were still pretty dicey. They seem to have those cleared pretty well now. So really the main roads, for the most part, have at least one lane pretty well cleared. Now, the secondary roads, the side roads, the back roads, the parking lots, those are all a very different story. So for many of you, the hardest part, if you have to get out, would be just getting out of your own driveway and out of your own neighborhood. Those side streets, residential streets, those are the ones that for the most part are still pretty untouched. If you can get out of your neighborhood to a main road, the main roads today are in better shape than they have been the past couple of days. But like I said, those residential streets are still in rough shape in a lot of places. Then even once you get where you're going, a lot of the time, as the snow plows have come through, there's snow piled up at the entrances to parking lots and things like that. A lot of the parking lots have not been cleared yet. So depending on where you're trying to go, when you get there, you may also run into some trouble. So the middle part of the journey, when you're on the main roads, you know, getting from one side of town to the other, you still want to use caution, go slow, give yourself time. But really, it's getting out of your house and getting into whatever your destination is. Those are the tricky parts right now, because those smaller roads, the parking lots and things, that's where conditions are still pretty rough out there. Checking in on the comments here real quick. Good afternoon, Sherry, Willow from Henderson, Erica from Philpott, Barbara, Clint from Beaver Dam, and then John from Southern Illinois. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Michelle commenting, yes, getting out of the driveway was awful. For me personally, getting out of my neighborhood was difficult, and then getting up to the station. We're up on a hill here on a road that doesn't get treated very much, so those were difficult. But in between, when I was on Highway 41 was in decent shape. You know, I-69, places like that seem to be in pretty good shape. And again, that's just the parts of it that I drove. I do know that my parents live in southern Henderson County, and while the 41 strip was in good shape, at least this morning, I don't know what has happened during the day today, but they said this morning as you head farther south, like toward Roberts, 41 was not in as good of a shape down that way. So just good to know. And oh, thank you, Cindy. Cindy saw my boots in the 12 o'clock show today and likes them. Thank you, Cindy. I was trying to figure out how Cindy would have seen my boots. I was like, you cannot see them you can't see the shoes I'm wearing in this shot, but you saw them in the noon. So, oh, thanks, Cindy. All right, let's talk weather now. It's mostly sunny out there right now. We've got some clouds starting to move in parts of Illinois. We'll see a few more clouds later this afternoon and evening. But really, our weather, for the most part, is pretty quiet over the next few days. A few passing clouds, and that's about it. But it is still very cold. Now today, we've actually had a warm up. We've been in the teens for the past 3 days, and today we broke into the 20s. Greenville even made it to freezing at 32 down there. Most of us are still in the mid to upper 20s though. It's 26 in Evansville, 27 in Henderson and Owensboro. And the wind, while it's not as strong, does still have a bit of a bite to it. Wind chill sitting at 15 in Evansville, 16 in Owensboro, and 17 in Henderson. So again, warmer than it has been, but still very chilly out there today. Overnight tonight, those winds will die down, so I'm not as concerned about wind chill, but it is going to be brutally cold out there without any wind tonight. The actual temperatures will get down to around 0 or maybe even a degree or two below that. I'm going with a forecast of -1 tonight. So overnight tonight, the actual temperatures will get down to near or slightly below 0. If we have even a gentle breeze, obviously the wind chills could quickly drop to 5 below, but really it looks like the winds will be pretty calm tonight. It's possible we could see a little patchy fog developing overnight. If that were to happen, it would obviously be freezing fog given these temperatures, but I'm not totally convinced that fog will actually develop. The air is still pretty dry. Tomorrow, much like today, we start out with a lot of sunshine, and then we'll start to see a few clouds at the end of the day. Temperatures will top out in the low to mid 20s with wind chills in the mid to upper teens. But then Wednesday night, we drop down into the single digits again. And Thursday morning, we're looking at a low around 8 degrees. Now, the wind will still be pretty calm, so I'm not as concerned about wind chill. But then Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, temperatures dip into the single digits again, and those 3 nights we will have a bit of a breeze. So I do think the wind chills will probably dip below 0, maybe as much as 5 to 10 degrees below 0. Just for some perspective, this line way up here that's like falling off the top of the map, that is our normal high for this time of year. This bright blue line is our normal low. So our highs this week are running close to where our normal lows would be this time of year. And then our lows are obviously running well below average from there. Part of why we're on alert is every single night this week, our temperatures will get into the single digits, and most nights that will also mean wind chills below 0. So it's going to be brutally cold every night this week. And even in the heat of the day, our temperatures are still going to be in the teens and 20s all the way through this week. Then we start to gradually warm up as we get into next week. Now, as cold as this is, it's actually not anywhere close to our records. This time of year, the record lows are hard to beat. Our record lows for this week, every single day, are in the negatives. Now, we might see negative wind chills, but we're not going to see our temperatures getting quite this cold. So the records are safe. We're not going to break any record cold temperatures, but it is interesting just how long it's going to stay this cold. If the current forecast holds, we're going to spend a total of 12 days below freezing. We've been below freezing since last Friday, so we're already, 4 or 5 days in, and it looks like we'll still be below freezing through the next 6 or 7 days. So it's very possible we end up spending 12 days straight with temperatures below freezing. Back in 2001, that's the record. We were below freezing for 18 days straight from December 17th through January 3rd of the next year. And in 2021, many of you probably remember that one. That was very recently. We had that cold snap in February of 2021 where we were below freezing for 11 days straight. I remember that one. I was working here. So this will be interesting because this could be another one of those long stretches. Really, even though we won't set any record temperatures, we could still end up in the record books for just how long our temperatures are going to stay below freezing, as we are expecting even our highs during the day to be below freezing, certainly our lows through the whole next 7 days. Tuesday, we might get close. That's when we start to kind of gradually warm back up again. Looking at the extended outlook, we are still right on the edge here of an area highlighted as having much below normal temperatures on into the next week. So that's something we will be monitoring. It does seem like the more extreme cold will start to work its way off to the east as warmer air moves in from the west next week. But the extended outlook for February 4th through the 10th still shows we could have near to slightly below average temperatures along with below average precipitation. So we are expecting our temperatures to be below freezing all the way through the start of next week, at least Monday, maybe Tuesday. Then possibly by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, second half of next week, we'll finally get above freezing, finally start to see this snow beginning to melt. But it still seems as if it will be rather cold. We're not going to be looking at the 60s we had at the beginning of this month, right? Even as we warm up, that would be just warming us back up to normal, which would be temperatures in the 40s. All right, I'm not seeing any other comments or questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, I'm grateful that people were able to get out and play and enjoy the snow a little bit, even though it has been so brutally cold. I would encourage you to be very careful if you are going to get out in this cold weather indoors. One big one, I know it seems like common sense, and you're thinking, well, everybody knows that. Why are you telling us? Please use space heaters safely. Every time we have a cold snap, we also see an increase in house fires, and a lot of those are caused by people incorrectly heating their homes, particularly using space heaters too close to flammable things, blankets and things like that, and they end up catching fire. And that can happen fast, so please be careful with that. And be aware that it may be cold enough that you'll want to monitor your pipes, make sure they're not freezing. If you do have to go outside, please layer up, cover everything. That means gloves, scarf or face mask, a hat, really bundle up out there and try to limit your time outdoors. I know everybody wants to go out and play in the snow, but try and make sure that the kids are taking breaks and coming inside and thawing out, okay? We don't want anybody getting any frostbite or anything like that, which is very easy to do when temperatures are this cold, especially late at night and early in the morning. Those temperatures are just going to be brutal this week. Also, something to keep in mind that I did want to mention real quick before we go. If there has been snow that has melted as they've kind of shoveled and salted, if there are areas that it's wet, with temperatures down to, single digits, it's very possible anything that is wet will then turn back over to ice. So even on the roads that have been cleared, where it looks like you've got clean pavement now, be on the lookout for black ice as we go through the rest of this week, as I do think we'll probably run into some spots of that. Oh, we do have one comment, Caitlin, asking, is there any more snow coming? I do have just a 20% chance on Friday and Monday for a few flurries, but we're not expecting any more significant, impactful snow accumulation of any kind. So it's possible we'll get a few snowflakes that just kind of clip the tri-state Friday or Monday, but as of right now, we're not expecting any significant snow accumulation of any kind. We may get just a few flurries, a few flakes, but nothing all that exciting. Really, moving forward, our weather looks pretty dry, but very cold. So again, check on your people, check on your pets, check on your pipes, and everybody stay warm and stay safe out there. All right? Have a great rest of your day.